From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Thank you, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 10th, 2017 meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. We're going to begin today's meeting with our flag salute. Our flag salute will be led by Tom Pasick. He's with the Kern County Grand Jury, and I'd ask that you all remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, and please join me in remembering the victims of the Las Vegas shooting.
Good morning. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. If you'd like to follow along with our agendas today, they are available at the tables near our exits. And we're going to begin with a consent agenda. All items listed with a CA above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. So at this time, I will read the consent agenda items. Starting on page 2, items 1, 5, 6, and 7 are all on consent. On page 3, items 10 through 12, as well as 14 through 16 are on consent. On page 4, items 17 through 24 are all on consent. On page 5, all items 25 through 32 are on consent. On page 6, all items, items 33 through 39 are on consent, but 40 is off consent. On page 7, items 41 through 47 are on consent. And finally, on page 8, item 50 is on consent. Are there any members of the audience who would like to make any comments on the consent agenda? Mr. Fox, please come forward. 33. Okay, please come forward, and I'd like to hear your comment in regards to item 33, but state your name for the record.
Yeah, I forgot to do it beforehand. I'm Dennis Fox. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Members and staff. And I sent you a letter, and in it I suggested take a fire engine, old one, rather than trade it in, to use it for, put some filters on it, and use it for when the big one hits, pump water out of any source, canals and stuff, and let the people come and bring jugs and fill them up. But also, it would be a handy thing to have for the firefighters at their camp. And the engine you're getting, I guess the other one is irreparable. So, but maybe you can get one from surplus from CDF or the Forest Service. They do turn them over. So there is hope. And I had suggested in the letter, and I still think it might, well, it isn't going to work. That's another one. I'm not doing too well on this one. Is that the water agency has these zones of benefit, and let them apply and see if they can get a grant and do it. But find out that some of the zones of benefit are not for local benefit, they're for other benefits. See, the Westlands of Fresno County has taken a look and looked at these tunnels and says, currently we get 4.7 million acre feet of water down that aqueduct. after 16 years and $30 billion, we will get 4.7 million acre feet, and they didn't see a benefit to that. Because, but we are in a different situation since we will be subsidizing it, the urban areas and the property owners, the business owners, and the oil companies. So it's something coming up. I thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board and ask if any board members would like to remove any items. Otherwise, I'd request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we'll return to page 2 of our agenda. Under resolutions and proclamations, item number 2 is to proclaim October 21st, 2017 as Hart Park After Dark Family Fun Night in Kern County. And Supervisor Gleason is going to make this presentation as well as item 4. And so I would ask that we also move approval to proclaim item 4, to proclaim October 10th through the 16th, 2017 as Navy Week in Kern County.
Motion on items 2 and 4.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, great day. The first one we're going to kick off with is recognition of Hart Park and what we've done in the past year under the leadership of our CAO. Thank you very much for all the support and guidance and leadership you've offered this effort. But we're proclaiming, got the wrong one. We're proclaiming first annual Hart Park After Dark Family Fun, and it'll never be pronounced like that again.
I named it that way for a reason.
Whose idea this was? Hart Pork After Dark. And this is gonna be a great thing. This is a way to get our focuses and our priorities in order, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Hart Park is such a vital part of Kern County and our heritage and who we are, and getting an opportunity to broadcast that to the community and get people involved and get them to have fun and use it for the purposes that are supposed to be used for is just a wonderful deal. So we've joined hands with the library and others to have this evening and to have this event. And the purpose of it is to bring the community together, highlight the importance of parks and county departments through this family-friendly event. Parks are vitally important for establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community, ensuring the health and families of our youth, contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community in Kern County. Hart Park After Dark will include family activities, spooky stories and crafts, live music, food trucks, vendors, stargazing. It's going to be a blast. Come one, come all. I'm really looking forward to it. So I have a proclamation here that reads, the Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern, State of California, has officially proclaimed October 21, 2017 as Hart Park After Dark Family Fun Night in Kern County, signed by the Honorable Zach Scrivener. And I have our partner here. Andy's going to talk a little bit about what we're doing. And you can hold on to this too.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I really did name it that for a reason.
Yeah, thanks.
I wanted to hear that over and over. Good morning, Chairman Scrivener and members of the board. I'm thrilled to be here this morning to highlight an awesome county effort involving multiple county departments. This will be the county's first annual, so I'll hear it again next year, hopefully. First annual Hart Park After Dark event to take place on Saturday, October 21st, 5 to 8 p.m. This event was conceived from an event I saw in San Diego County, and I thought to myself, well, hey, we're Kern County, we can do it better than San Diego. So that's what we did. I gathered the crew behind me, many county departments, and we got together, and so for 2 months, we've been coordinating this event. The CAO has been extremely supportive. General Services, very supportive. And we have stuff going on with animal services, with veterans, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We have stargazing with the Kern County Astronomical Society. We have stories for families and little ones with library staff. We have scary stories for teens and adults with library staff. We also have a night bike ride for families with Bike Bakersfield. We have a night hike with library staff leading it, a guided tour. We have live music and a DJ. We have camo face painting. Can you guess which department is going to do camo face painting? Veteran Services. We have rock painting with DHS. We have spay and neuter vouchers with Animal Services, and we have food vendors. So we have a lot going on. So as you can see, this event has received quite a bit of attention locally, particularly on social media. Our Facebook social media campaign has reached 81,000 Facebook users, which means that they're aware of the event, which means that they realize that county staff are coming together to pull together this event. We know that 9,000 Facebook users have viewed the flyer, and that 3,200 have clicked interested. That takes effort to click the interest button. So we're expecting probably 800 to 1,000 people. I invite all of you guys to come with your families, county residents, and county employees. So thank you very much for hearing that this morning, and I expect to see you guys there.
Come
on, guys. Come on. Talk after dark.
Thanks.
Good?
Outstanding.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, my God, that's horrible. Thanks, Andy.
You're welcome.
Andy, you stole my other one, too.
Oh, I did?
Crying out loud, Lisa.
Sorry.
You can have both.
No.
Thank you very much. We're going to kick on number 4, which is to recognize and proclaim the week October 10th through 16th, 2017 as Navy Week in Kern County. This is an effort to get the Navy front and center and make sure that we understand what we're doing and how we recognize one of the biggest economic drivers in Kern County. A funny story about the Navy and its how it does its public affairs. During Desert Storm, a great example is during Desert Storm, we were unable to get diplomatic clearances and overflight clearances for the Air Force to meet the target set. They couldn't get to the targets. So the Navy, being able to place 5 acres of sovereign U.S. soil within 11 miles of any coastline, said, we can do it. So the Navy conducted 85% of the sorties during the Desert Storm. 85%. 15% were Air Force and other joint forces. But the Navy, at the same time, had this ridiculous rule that they wouldn't let reporters on aircraft carriers because we didn't want civilians on the aircraft carrier. We didn't want word getting out about what the Navy does and how we do it. So as a result, the Air Force got all the credit. And the Navy went home, did all the work, and got very little share of the credit. So the Navy's always had a problem in public relations because of the nature of the beast, who it is, how it works. And a great example of that is right here in Kern County. We have the largest Navy base in the world in Kern County. Largest U.S. Navy base in the world in Kern County. And we are acutely aware of the value that brings and the value that Kern County contributes as a host to this base in our national security. So it's another reason why Kern County we are who we are, and we are proud of who we are because of the great work that is being done on a daily basis and the contributions of our citizens in making sure that our liberties are intact. So it's with great pride that we take a moment to understand that and proclaim that the week October 10th through October 16th, 2017, as Navy Week in Kern County, recognized and entered in the official board minutes by our Honorable Zach Scrivener. I have Josh with me here who's going to talk a little bit about some stuff.
Introduce our guest.
Okay, good. We have some people here who want to give us some insight, so thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to thank you for this proclamation. I want to introduce you to Petty Officer Dutton, one of the local recruiters here in town, and she's going to say a few words.
Good morning. I'd just like to say thank you for all the support that you guys have offered us in the last few years since I've been here. And I know you're going to continue to offer support for us and also have weeks of celebration for the Navy. We don't get much recognition, like he said, and we really appreciate it.
Good job.
All right, thank you for your service.
Get a picture. Let's get a picture. Don't go. Yep. Beat on me.
Thank you, Supervisor Gleason. Next is item 3 on our agenda. This is to proclaim October 9th through the 15th, 2017 as National Fire Prevention Week in Kern County. And Supervisor Perez will make this presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Motion on proclamation.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
I have with me Chairman, our Chief, Brian Marshall, as you know, our Fire Chief and Director of Emergency Services. Today I have the great privilege of proclaiming the week of October 9th through the 15th, 2017 as National Fire Prevention Week in Kern County. This proclamation serves not just as a commemoration to the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 that killed over 300 people and left thousands of people homeless, but also as a reminder of the importance of fire prevention and protecting the lives of citizens here in Kern County. I am extremely grateful for our brave firefighters of the Kern County Fire Department who have shown their dedication in protecting our community and for their work in educating the community on fire prevention and emergency training. As the population continues to grow in Kern County, we need to ensure that we are doing our best in preventing fires in every corner of this vast and diverse county, for our mountain communities, our residential communities, and of course, our urban areas as well. During this Fire Prevention Week, the Kern County Fire Department will hold various fire prevention education activities and public service announcements to raise awareness for fire safety in Kern County. Thank you to the Kern County Fire Department for your work in protecting our communities and for providing services geared towards anticipating and responding to the ever-changing needs of our diverse communities. Chief, you may recall, it's been almost 2 years to the day that I called you and said, I think my house burned down. It was October 15, and so it is really very personal for me today to acknowledge both a city and county fire that helped save the structure of my home. And it is an incredible and marvelous craft that you do. And so thank you. Fire prevention is so critical. We see what's happening in Northern California. We know at least 10 Californians have lost their lives in those fires. Very serious business. Yes. Chief, thank you for what you do. I know you have folks here with you that you'll announce, but the proclamation is for you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. And yes, it did touch your life personally, and I'm glad we were able to answer that call that night as your house was on fire. Chairman Scrivener, members of the board, yes, it's Fire Prevention Week, and it's something, as your fire chief, I take very serious. Let me go through some of the numbers to put the scope of the fire problem in the United States and Kern County. So the 2016 U.S. fire experience, fire departments responded to 1.3 million fires in 2016, and of those, 475,000 were structure fires. That's homes, businesses. 352,000 of those were residential structure fires. That's where we live. That's where we raise our families. And I can tell you personally, when a house burns, even if it's a small fire, the damage is immense. You were out of your house, what, almost 7 months. For a relatively small fire, The damage in Supervisor Perez's house impacted her life. A residential structure fire occurs every 90 seconds. Let's talk about injuries and deaths. There were 2,735 civilian fire deaths in residential structure fires. Every one of those could have been prevented. Smoke detectors saved people's lives. A civilian died in a residential structure fire every 3 hours and 12 minutes. And I can tell you, our Kern County Fire Department's responding to structure fires often, and they are preventable, and the injuries and deaths are preventable. There were nearly 15,000 civilian fire injuries, and of those, 10,750 occurred in homes. The property damage, $10.6 billion as a result of fires in the United States. $5.6 billion were residential fires. And I can tell you, we all pay for this. Insurance, the rebuilding of homes, we all pay for this. And here's an interesting statistic. Intentionally set fires resulted in 310 civilian fire deaths and $473 million in property loss last year. I can tell you a couple weeks ago, we were in Supervisor Maggard's area chasing an arsonist who was setting fires everywhere. Your fire investigation division is out there actively pursuing these people who set fires in structures, the wildland, vehicles, and we aim to arrest and prosecute these people for doing damage. Sadly, 95 firefighters lost their lives fighting fires and protecting our citizens across America last year. So let's bring it home. Let's talk about what we had in Kern County last year. We responded to nearly 50,000 emergency calls, which resulted in 80,000 responses of Kern County Fire Department equipment that's moving all over the county. We had the Calgary fire this year, and fire units from throughout the county was in Supervisor Gleason's area as they protected the community of Wofford Heights. 80,000 times we responded to help people. There were 3,316 fires, 42 civilian fire injuries, 6 civilian fire deaths. That's way too many. And let's talk about property loss. $66,425,000 in property loss. Again, we all pay. So this year's fire prevention theme, every second counts, plan 2 ways out. We are here to educate the public, and the staff behind me is our fire prevention staff, our civilian public education, public information office, and we're out there every day. We're out there during wildland fire season. We were at the fair this year. We had the pavilion right at the main gate, and we had fire trucks, which attract people, which attract the children, and we're able to get our message out. And hopefully we made the difference in one life, because we all pay for it. And we all know that the burn from fire results in intense pain, and I can just imagine the grief of a family as they lose their house and possibly the loss of a loved one. One last thing as I close. We have firefighters in Northern California right now battling the wildland fires. We had firefighters on the ground yesterday fighting fires throughout the county. In fact, 4 of your Kern County firefighters were injured during the fire that occurred off of Cottonwood Road. They're doing well today, but we're on the front lines every day. Thank you.
Very well said. Should we get a picture? Everybody want to come on over? Let's move over to the center so this is not in the way.
Okay.
You want to come forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Supervisor Perez. And thank you for the work that your men and women do every day, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. So at this time, I'll ask if anyone has a public presentation they would like to make. We're asking you to state your name and please observe our 2-minute time limit. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Scrivener, the board, Ms. Perez. Always like to acknowledge the women. Mr. Gleason, I know everybody likes to give you a hard time about your New York accent. My mother was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. We've lived here in Kern County several years. I don't want to age my mother. She still speaks like she's from New York. My nephew has never been to New York, yet he says hot dog. Not hot dog, hot dog. So if you have come from New York, you understand the lingo. It's very special. So, and today seeing you honor the Navy, I feel like my brother and my father in heaven is watching, because my dad was 20 years in the Navy, and he was a chief petty officer as well. So as you all know, I like to always start with the scripture. And so this is the scripture that I have. It's from the book of Mark. And it says, "Then he put a little child among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, 'Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me welcomes not only me, but also my Father who sent me.'" In September, I was here when you guys were doing your budget meeting. And I was very honored that God placed me here that evening, because we had people fighting for their raises. And Kern Mental Health, the children mental health, and they've renamed themselves, I spoke up on their behalf because my nephew gets services from them. They have done an immense, diligent job all last week. We have court this afternoon, and unfortunately, his mother said some not true facts. And unfortunately, Child Protective Services has failed to maintain that he's safe. And then his mental health office and me have gone through an Easter egg hunt, trying to provide county courts the necessary paperwork to make sure that my nephew's civil rights are not violated. I made an oath when his mother let me be his godmother. When God approved me to be his godmother, my job is to protect this child. He's my child. I raise him. I'm not his mother. I'm the mother that's teaching him how to live his life. Just like the mother who adopted me, my dad who adopted me, they taught me how to live this life. I'm thankful for them, because they gave me the courage to stand in front of you guys. I'm thankful for the parents who gave me life, but I'm thankful for them. We have to remember, as we create our budgets, we need to look at who we're providing services to. And we can't forget how important our children are. Our children are our future. Our children is a future Mr. Scrivener, a future Ms. Perez. We have to reinvest in our future, and we can't ever forget that. And unfortunately, we have some departments who are forgetting that. The Sheriff's Department, Child Protective Services. I think it's time that you guys as the board start reminding them the importance of their role in the community and how families are depending on them, and that we have to start stepping up. This is a wonderful county. We are highly respected. It's time that we start showing everybody how highly respected we are, because we're letting some people not make us look in good light.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, I thought I did, sir. I'm so sorry. Nadine Escalante. I'm so sorry,
Ms.
sir.
Escalante, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Francis Moore, and I'm here today representing the Probation Auxiliary County of Kern. I just wanted to start off by saying keep in mind that scripture reading and those comments because they play right into what I'm here to talk about today. I wanted to thank you all for your past support of our program. What we're doing is the Probation Auxiliary County of Kern has worked in partnership with the Bridges Academy, which is one of our Bakersfield City school groups that focuses on kids who have been in trouble, who have gotten out of some kind of a custodial situation or situation where they're trying to better their lives, and they attend Bridges Academy to try to catch up with their grade point average, catch up with their classes missed so they can get back into the regular curriculum of high school and or obtain their GED or high school diploma. One of the things that they had taken out of the program several years back was the arts programs. And those are some of the areas that our kids really focused on. They weren't excited to come to school and go to English or history. They were excited to come to school and learn about arts, whether it was sewing, whether it was some kind of mechanics class, whether it was an arts class. It got them excited to get into the classroom. Once we got them into the classroom, we got them the English, we got them the history, we got them all those other mathematics, those courses that really were going to help them in the future. But we also we were able to touch on the motivation. We got them interested and excited about doing something with their future. And so I just wanted to come today. I presented a few of these flyers to each of you. I just now realized when I was sitting there, some were in English, some were in Spanish. So if you got one that's in Spanish and you can't read it, let me know. I'll give you an English one. If you're fluent in Spanish, that's okay too. I had 50-50 and I didn't realize it until I was sitting there. So I can exchange it if you want. I'm going to leave the rest of these in the back of the room if it's okay for anyone who wants to come to that. We've been able to expand the program because of the support of folks like Ms. Perez or some of the others. Mr. Couch, you've come to our art auctions. You've been there. People have seen you there. That excites and entices others to show up. I cannot express how much we appreciate not only the financial support, but just the motivation that you give people by being a part of our program. So thank you. God bless you all for what you do. It's October 19th, 5:30 in the evening at Bridges Academy over on 18th Street. Look forward to seeing you there if you can make it. If not, keep us in prayer. And good luck to you all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, and appreciate your good work. Thank you. Do we have any other public presentations? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on then to item number 9, board member announcements or reports. Okay, nothing from the board. Then we'll move to item 13 under airports. This is a report on Runway 12L 30R reconstruction project at Meadows Field Airport. And our Director of Airports, Richard Strickland, will start this discussion. Mr. Strickland, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Pleasure to be here this morning. We've got a video for you this morning to give you a little update on the runway project out at Meadows Field Airport. What you'll see here is taxiway Bravo, fully down to the subbase for full reconstruction, the blast pad as well, all down to the subbase for reconstruction at the south end of the airport. Looking north, going up, this is the southern end with the blast pad, all 3,420 linear feet of it taken down to the subbase, waiting for 18 inches of new asphalt to be put on top. As we continue looking further, you can see some of the new asphalt that was already laid in that 3,400 foot section of the runway. Once again, it's the southern end. As we continue looking north, you can see here some of the new paint markings that went down, but also they replaced the approach lighting system. I guess it would have been good had they turned on the approach lighting system for the video, but that was not coordinated. The right-hand side there, you can see the right-hand side going down for about 3,700 feet. That is all taken down to the subbase and fully repaired on the right-hand side of the runway there. And the runway lighting system was redone all the way up and down both sides of the runway. The edge lighting was redone, and the runway shoulder work was redone. This is at Taxiway Delta. The in-pavement lighting you see there is for the SMIGS lighting, which is during the fog, basically, is the simplest way to say it. That lighting will allow for the safe movement of aircraft around the airfield without one of the airport LEOs going out on the airfield to be able to do that. We also replaced the touchdown zone lighting system and 2 connector taxiways in that overall footage. We're expected to end phase 2 about November 15th of this year. Minor items will be finished up probably through December or January, and then we will begin phase 3 in March of next year.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Are there any members of the audience who would like to make comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board. Any board members? Supervisor Gleason?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a pleasure of getting a tour last week. I think it was last week or the week before, and it was really impressive, the work they've done. They brought our gateway into our community and our gateway out of this community into the 21st century. So I'm thrilled with the work that's been done, and I thank the leadership of the airport and all the people involved with the work. Good work.
Supervisor Couch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Can you brief us on any developments? I know you've been working on bringing back, forgotten the name of the grant, SCASD?
Yes, it is a SCASD grant.
You've been working on obtaining that to bring back service to either Houston or Dallas. Can you brief us on, or bring us up to date on your progress there?
Yeah, Supervisor Couch through the chair. The SCASD grant is the Small Community Air Service Development Grant. It's released by the federal government, Department of Transportation, every year. It just received its funding from Congress within the last couple of weeks. In that, we've looked at getting service back to Texas is how we will have to be able to word the grant document. And within the next 30 days, maybe 45 days, I was planning on bringing a full update to the board with details related to the SCASD grant. So if I could, I would respectfully bring that back to the board at that time, but I appreciate the question.
Thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Mr. Strickland, thank you. Next item on our agenda is item number 40. This is under Public Health Services. This is a presentation on the Kern County Child Death Review Team 2016 Annual Report. And we have Matt Constantine with us, Director of our Public Health Department. So Mr. Constantine, when you are ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm joined this morning with Russ Hastings. He's a supervising public health nurse and is also our chairman of the Child Death Review Team. As we've done for the last several years, we are here this morning to provide you a brief summary of the Kern County Child Death Review Team's 2016 report. The report, the data, and our recommendations and our action items will be published on our website later this morning, but we felt it was best to present this directly to your board as we've done in the years past. This obviously is a difficult topic. We lost 117 children in 2016. More than 40 of those were referred to the Child Death Review Team to investigate and to see what we could learn from these tragedies to prevent other deaths. The team, which is chaired by Russ, operates under the umbrella of the Kern County Network for Children and is made up of experts in the field with the sole purpose of protecting Kern County children. So with that, I'd like to ask Russ to walk us through the findings, and then I'll have some final comments when Russ is done.
Good morning, Mr. Hastings. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share our report with you this year. Again, my name is Russ Hastings, Chair with the Child Death Review Team. Here to report our 2016 findings. Just to give a little bit of background, like Mr. Constantine had mentioned, the CDRT is an interdisciplinary team led by public health. Our mission is to reduce child deaths associated with abuse and neglect, as well as other preventable deaths. We get those referrals or those cases from the coroner's office, and those cases that are referred to us are reviewed by the team to identify any systemic gaps and make recommendations based on trends. And like was mentioned before, 117 deaths of our children occurred here in Kern County in 2016, and 42 of those were reviewed by Child Death Review Team. So to the report data itself, again, we reviewed 42 cases of child death this last year. 19 of those were deemed as accidental by the coroner's office. For the blunt force trauma, those are typically our motor vehicle accidents. And then, so the accidentals represented a large number of the 42 cases, with undetermined down there at the bottom representing the second largest number. Things to note, we did have, again, 6 suicides of our children this last year, 3 homicides, and again, we had 10 undetermined, which the unsafe sleeping is included. So when we look at the age breakdown of those 42 cases, again, as in years past, those under the age of 1 represent the largest number of cases reviewed by the team, with the older teens representing the second largest age group. So to our findings, recommendations, and interventions, there were 3 major themes that came out of the reviews this last year. The first, as in past years, is the unsafe infant sleep. In 2016, we lost 7 of our Kern County babies due to an unsafe sleeping environment. In those 7 cases, 100% of those had a co-sleeping component where they were sleeping with 1 or more adults leading up to the time of death. When we look at those 7 deaths, when we map them out, as you can see, they're pretty spread out, with the exception of this area to the upper right. That would be over on 178, or southeast of 178 and Union Avenue. And those were 2 homes, 2 residential homes, and 1 apartment complex where those deaths occurred in that one localized area. When we look at the last 5 years of unsafe sleep deaths, as you can see in 2014, that's when we really hit the peak with 16 deaths. In 2012, or prior to 2012, we were averaging 3 to 4. But as you can see, the last couple of years, we've been trending in the right direction, but still have 7 deaths this last year. So in terms of what's been done and what we feel needs to be done, we continue to do a lot of training and education of our community. We held our 2nd annual Safe Sleep Conference, which spent an entire morning educating the community on unsafe sleep practices. We've also continued to work on resource development. Earlier this year, a Safe Sleep Coalition was established, where all the major hospitals of Bakersfield are at the table now to discuss having a consistent message and seeing exactly what we can do to address this issue. And several partnerships have been established with public health. We continue raising community awareness through press releases, local news coverage, utilizing faith-based organizations, and having PSAs, public service announcements, throughout the year. However, obviously that's not enough. Although the numbers are going down, we really got to continue doing more. The recommendation is that we continue with resource development until every single Kern County baby sleeps in a safe environment every single time. We've got to continue doing outreach to all the OB, obstetrician offices in Kern County. We've got to reach out to all of our daycare providers, apartment complexes, anywhere where children are present, and to potentially make an impact on these numbers. Continue raising community awareness on the local resources, and something that we really thought would be potentially a game changer is policy development in all of our hospitals to establish a safe infant sleep policy in all the hospitals where infants may sleep at one time or another. So the recommendation that came out of that was continue efforts to increase community awareness and education regarding the association between unsafe sleep environment and SIDS. or sewage deaths. The second thing that jumped out at us this last year were the water safety or drownings that occurred. We lost 6 of our children to drowning in 2016. 5 of those were under the age of 9, and all 5 of those occurred in residential swimming pools. One of those 6 deaths occurred in the Kern River, and just in the last 3 years, we've lost 16 of our children to drowning. Again, in terms of what's been done and what needs to be done, earlier this summer, Public Health developed a Water Watchers campaign aimed at establishing a quote-unquote water watcher, somebody whose responsibility is to watch children when they're around bodies of water, and that's their role. That's all they focus on. There's no distractions. And as a part of that, these lanyards were developed to identify those individuals as our water watchers, and that way that is known that this person is responsible. When you are a water watcher, you are responsible for the children that are in the water at that time. These lanyards were provided at all the public swimming pools by environmental health inspectors when they were doing their inspections. We're also offering sidewalk CPR to the public, as well as continuing to develop and provide public service announcements. But again, it's not enough. We lost 6 more children last year to drowning. We've got to continue our community outreach to our daycare providers, our apartment complexes, as well as our preschools. Some preschools now have individuals that come in and educate these youngsters on how to be safe around water. We've got to see that in every preschool. We've got to take every opportunity to educate our youngsters, regardless of how young, on how to be safe around bodies of water. Basic swimming lessons for all children, not in the hopes of having Olympic swimmers, but just for them to be able to recover if they do fall into a pool, just to be able to float. I mean, just very basic swimming skills. And then CPR training for all parents and caregivers of children. That's a very important skill if a child unfortunately does go under and is unresponsive once they're removed from the water. Having CPR skills can be the difference between saving that child and that child dying. So the recommendation that came out of that was to continue efforts to increase community awareness of water safety and potential drowning dangers of pools, bodies of water, and the Kern River. And the third thing, third trend or theme that jumped out at us this year was our child suicide. In 2016, 6 of our children took their own lives. The youngest was a pre-adolescent. And in the last 3 years, 14 of our children have died by suicide. Again, what has been done, a lot of collaboration in the community. Public Health has partnered with Kern Behavioral Health. Again, we're providing that training and education to the community to give them the skills to identify and address those issues, to be able to have those conversations with youngsters, and then raising community awareness, partnering with our faith-based organizations. They can bring that information back to their congregation in the hopes of at least preventing 1 or more child suicides. But again, that's not enough. We've got to continue pushing forward. We've got to increase collaboration between schools and mental health services. We really need to outreach to parents to decrease the stigma associated with mental illness. A lot of parents feel uncomfortable broaching the subject with their children. We've got to give them the skills and strategies to be able to start those conversations and just ask the simple question, how are you doing? Increase healthcare provider awareness and knowledge base regarding child suicide, and increase the availability of mental health first aid trainings. Again, that's providing the skills necessary to identify and address those issues in the community. So the CDRT recommendation is to support efforts that address suicide among children, to raise community awareness, convey strategies for identifying signs of self-harm, and to develop resources for those at risk of suicide. So in conclusion, there's a lot of good work that's being done out in the community to address these issues that have been identified by the team, but we've got to continue pushing forward. As you can see, we've really focused on unsafe infant sleep in the last couple of years. And those numbers are trending downward, but again, this really isn't an indicator to let our foot off the gas. We've got to double down if we really want to get those numbers down to 0. And so we really got to get the more community involvement, increase our collaboration, and continue moving forward to address these issues. Thank you.
Mr. Hastings, thank you. Mr. Cotstein?
So just a couple comments. There are 750 public pools in the county of Kern that environmental health regulates. We put those lanyards in every one of those owners of those pools to make sure they know. It's a designated driver, if you will, for watching children in the pools. We've given them out to parents. We've given them out on the river. We want everybody to recognize that somebody has to watch the children when they're in a pool. At a party or kid's birthday party, you don't keep track. This is the mom or the dad that sits there and watches the kids. That's the idea behind it. I'd also like to acknowledge First Five and Roland Meyer, who is here in the audience. He, like public health, was frustrated with the unsafe sleep environments and those 7 deaths. He helped us pull together a group of folks that are trying to change how this is addressed. And I'll tell you just pointedly, every single child that is born in a hospital needs to leave with a safe sleeping environment, a pack and play, a safe crib that they can sleep in. Russ tells us that those deaths that occurred in 16 were because that child was in the bed with a parent. We know how hard it is as a parent and how tiring it is, but it's critically important they sleep in their own environment. Every OBGYN, every pediatrician should be asking, where is this child going to be sleeping? Kern Medical has done a great job at handing out playpens to those that need it. Every hospital should do this. Every child born here should leave with a playpen. We make sure they leave with a car seat. We don't make sure they leave with a playpen. We're here to help. We'll find ways to do it. We have churches that have volunteered money, have volunteered to buy these the playpens. We're here to support. But those action items are powerful, and with First Five's help, we're going to make a difference, and hopefully in 2016. And when we're here next year in 17, we hope to report on better numbers. Supervisor Scrivener, that completes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Constantine. I'll ask if there are any members of the audience that would like to make comment. Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board. Okay, I don't see any comments. This doesn't require any action. I want to thank you for your tremendous work. Very difficult topic, but we are seeing some progress in a positive direction. So thank you so much for you and all your partners that you're working with. Mr. Constantine, thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. The next item on our agenda is item 48. This is under Treasurer Tax Collector. We actually have 2 items, item 48 and 49, that are somewhat related. We have our Treasurer Tax Collector, Jordan Kaufman, who is going to make these presentations and start the discussion. These are going to be 2 public hearings. And Mr. Kaufman, I will allow you to describe these items and kick us off. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. So as you said, there are 2 items before you, and they're very similar, but I have to go through each one separately and according to the TEFRA requirements. So the first one is a TEFRA hearing and proposed approval to issue $15 million in revenue bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority for Omni Family Health related to 3 medical facilities here in Kern County. Your board has been requested to conduct a hearing in conformance with the requirements of the Tax, Equity, and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or TEFRA, with respect to the proposed execution and delivery of the revenue bonds. The California Municipal Finance Authority proposes to issue tax-exempt revenue bonds to finance the acquisition, construction, and development of 2 new medical facilities and also construct tenant improvements at an existing lease facility, again, all located here in Kern County. The bonds will be used by the authority to provide a loan to Omni Family Health, the applicant, a California nonprofit public benefit corporation. At this time, the applicant is requesting authorization to issue the tax-exempt bonds in an amount not to exceed $15 million related to the projects. The county's Debt Advisory Committee met on September 14th with the applicant and a representative from the authority. The County of Kern will not be the issuer and therefore has no financial liability or responsibility at all with respect to this bond issue. The committee reviewed the issue for consistency with the county's debt financing policies and did not find any significant deviation with those policies. The Debt Advisory Committee determined that the project does offer public benefit by continuing to provide medical and health services. The committee unanimously approved, recommending that your board conduct the TEFRA hearing to satisfy the TEFRA requirements of a public hearing to determine public benefit and approve issuing the bonds. Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code requires public agency approval for the issuance of tax-exempt private activity bonds. This section was originally enacted in the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982, again, TEFRA. Each project proposed to be financed by an issue of private activity bonds must be approved by the governmental unit issuing the bonds, that would be the authority, and the governmental unit having jurisdiction over the area in which the project is located, and that is your board, in order to qualify for tax-exempt status. Public notice, proof of publication of the public notice was provided in the Bakersfield Californian on 9/25/17 for this hearing. And so, therefore, it is recommended that your board conduct the TEFRA hearing for the purpose of financing the acquisition, development, and construction of the project, approve the California Municipal Finance Authority's request to issue tax-exempt bonds, and adopt the attached resolution. And the attached resolution does have a little more detail on exactly what the projects are, and also representatives from the authority and the applicant, Omni Family Health, are here in the audience today. Should your board have any questions regarding the financing or the projects?
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. I'll now open the public hearing and ask if there's any public comment. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return to the board. The requested action is to approve the California Municipal Finance Authority's request to issue tax-exempt bonds and adopt resolution.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to item 49. Mr. Kaufman, please.
All right, as I said, this one is very similar. This is a TEFRA hearing and proposed approval to issue $4,635,000 in revenue bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority for Waste Management, Inc., related to improvements to the existing McKittrick landfill facility. Your board has been requested to conduct a hearing in conformance with TEFRA with respect to the proposed execution and delivery of revenue bonds. The authority proposes to issue the tax-exempt bonds to finance the construction of new cells and liners, additions and improvements to the leachate collection and treatment system, improvements to the methane gas system, and installation of new liners for intermittent and final closure of completed sections of the landfill facilities. The existing landfill is located in McKittrick, California, and is owned and operated by Waste Management, Inc., who is the applicant. At this time, the applicant's requesting authorization to issue tax-exempt bonds in an amount not to exceed $4,635,000. The aggregate amount of bonds to be issued for the various projects throughout the state will not exceed $100 million. So they have projects throughout the state, but again, here in Kern County, it is the sole project in McKittrick. The county's Debt Advisory Committee did meet on September 14th with the applicant and representatives from the authority. Again, the County of Kern will not be the issuer and therefore has no financial liability or responsibility at all with respect to the bond issue. The committee reviewed the issue for consistency with the county's debt financing policies and again did not find any significant deviation from those policies. The Debt Advisory Committee determined that the project does offer public benefit by continuing to provide a more efficient delivery of local services to residential and commercial development, and the committee unanimously approved, recommending that your board conduct the TEFRA hearing to satisfy the TEFRA requirements of a public hearing to determine public benefit and approve issuing the bonds. Again, proof of publication was provided as notice of the hearing in the Bakersfield Californian, and that was published on 9/26. And so, therefore, it's recommended that your board conduct a TEFRA hearing for the purpose of financing the project, approve the California Municipal Finance Authority's request to issue tax-exempt bonds, and adopt the attached resolution. And again, the resolution does have a little more detail on the project, and again, representatives from the authority and the applicant, Waste Management, Inc., are here today, should your board have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, return to the board. The requested item is to approve California Municipal Finance Authority's request to issue tax-exempt bonds and adopt resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda for this morning. We do have 3 items to consider in closed session under the County Administrative Office, items 51, 52, and 53. So at this time, I'll request a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Motion.
We're adjourned.